everybody. Today I will be going over the Indomitable Spirit patch notes that came out on August 26th, and they go to the live client on September the 1st, but they're on the PTS right now. If you want to go and check out all the changes, download the PTS. The highlight of this patch note is, of course, the new god, Xing Tian. I don't know how to pronounce his name. He is from the Chinese Pantheon. He is a Guardian, so we got back-to-back Guardians. This is what he looks like. It's the full loading card for him. And let's go ahead and get into his abilities. His passive is called Smoldering Rage. He gains stacks of Smoldering Rage each time he hits an enemy with an ability. He can get up to 12 stacks, and each stack provides him with HP 5, plus 3 HP 5 per stack, and the stacks last for 18 seconds. His first ability is called Furious Roar, and he shouts from his chest with a great force, dealing 60, 80, 100, 120, 140 damage, plus 40% magic power, and reducing the enemy's basic attack damage by 30, 35, 40, 45, 50 for 1.5 up to 3.5 seconds. And enemies take percentage of max health as damage over time, plus 2.5% per second. So, it does damage, reduces basic attack damage, and it applies a percentage health dot. It costs from 55 up to 75 mana, and the cooldown scales down from 15 to 11 seconds at max rank. His second ability is called Hook Slam, and he first launches an attack with his axe, knocking the opponents into the air before slamming them into the ground and rooting them for 1, 1 1/4, 1 1/2, 1 3/4, up to 2 full seconds at max rank. The axe damage starts at 25 and scales all the way up to 80. And it also adds 25% magic power. And the slam damage starts at 50 and scales up to 190. And with a 45% magic power scaling. Mana cost scales up from 70 to 90 and has an 18-second cooldown at all ranks. His third ability is called Sky Cutting Axe, and he leaps forward, dealing from 45 up to 125 damage at max rank, plus 35% of his magic power. And when he lands, he may leap again within 2 seconds. While in the air, he has increased protections, and those protections are refreshed if he connects with a target on his jump. Using another ability during this time cancels the additional leap. So basically how this jump works, it's a jump that deals damage, right? And gives some extra protections. But it works pretty much exactly the same as Nemesis's double dash. You can jump, and within 2 seconds, you can jump again somewhere else. Like how Nemesis can dash, and then, dash a second time, but she can, change direction, and she can basic attack in between, and so forth. But if you use another ability, you don't get your second leap. It costs from 65 up to 105 mana and has a 14-second cooldown at all ranks. And finally, his ultimate Whirlwind of Rage and Steel. He spins his axe 3 times in succession, dealing from 50 up to 150 damage, plus 50% magical power per swing, and sweeping up his enemies before throwing them. So, I'm not exactly sure how this works, but I'm pretty sure that, he spins his axe 3 times, he knocks his enemies up, and then they're, thrown backwards. I think is how it works. I'm not sure. I didn't see the video. New God skins. We've got Ragnarok Fenrir, the recolor for the new God, an update to Volcanic Agni, and master skins for Ratatasker, Ragnarok Fenrir voice pack, clap and wave for the new god, and a new special emote for Isis, new avatar for the new god, and boom, we have a flower ward. That's the big change in this patch. Alright, now onto the miscellaneous stuff. New splash screen art when starting client. Added spawn indicators for siege minions in arena. That's actually a cool change. So you know exactly when your siege minions are going to spawn. Probably like how it is in the siege game mode. Jungle practice, fixed issue with more than 2 players not able to level up. Okay. Odin dummies will now return to their starting point if displaced. Match lobby updated art for God Select and Lock-in states. Fixed VGS for attack tower Phoenix not playing correctly in some modes. Fixed objective killer achievement for not being awarded for killing Fire Giant. And finally, fixed players not able to complete Conquest tutorial as a Guardian. Gotta love all the little bug fixes. Alright, item changes. Blink, fixed issue with camera momentarily getting stuck if blinking into a Giannis portal. Alright. Bluestone Pendant. This is a big change. Bluestone Pendant was an item that offered mana sustain instead of health sustain. Unfortunately, over the course of balancing, it was either too potent or too lackluster. I'm going to disagree with it being too lackluster. In its current iteration, so how it is, live right now, before this change will occur on the 1st, it's perfectly balanced. But that's why it's not good, right? Like, Death's Toll is a little bit better than being balanced, alright? Bluestone Pendant was perfectly balanced. Basically, it gave you 1 free ability per minion wave, approximately. And that's really what it should be, right? It shouldn't be giving you any more than that. So the problem is that it was a perfectly balanced item, right? Not that it was a weak item, but what made it weak was the fact that it was actually balanced. This patch, we are shifting the item away from a sustain focus. Instead, it will now augment ability damage users by providing damage over time on enemies hit by abilities. The goal is to have a meaningful choice between wave clear and aggression or sustain and defenses for physical users. So they completely reworked Bluestone Pendant, and now it gives 20 physical power and 100 mana. And enemies hit by damaging abilities take an additional 30 physical damage over 2 seconds. I'm going to be honest, I don't know why they do stuff like this. I don't know why they take an item and completely change it. It's one thing when you, change up a passive to make it slightly different than it was before, or change the stats around a little bit, maybe remove one of the stats it gave if it gave too many different stats. But when you completely change what an item is meant to do, I think at that point what you should really do instead is just remove the item from the game and then make a new item. Personally. Because now it's not Bluestone Pendant, right? The whole point of Bluestone Pendant was it's going to give you a bunch of extra mana. That's why it was called Bluestone Pendant, because it gives you a bunch of mana, which is represented by the color blue. So I think they should have just removed Bluestone Pendant and added a new item that had these stats. Enchanted Buckler, this is a tier 1 item. I believe it builds into Ankale, Runic Shield, I think. Cost yours from 750 to 700. Alright, Mela Renewal. This is on the same tree as Breastplate of Valor. Mela Renewal is an interesting item that exists to help players persist during and after a fight. We have increased its overall effectiveness while making sure we kept the high-end potential of this item from going out of control by making it refresh instead of stack in place. This should make the item more attractive overall. So it has increased CDR up to 15% now, and the increased healing passive from 10% to 20%, and the passive now also activates on objective kills. And it no longer stacks. Upon a successful trigger, it will refresh the current duration. So basically how Mail of Renewal worked before is that if you triggered the passive heal on it, it would last for, however many seconds it was. And if you were able to trigger it again, a new one would start while the first one was still going. So you were getting double the heal, until the first one ran out, and then the second one, still had some time left on it. Now, how it works is if you trigger the passive heal is ticking, and then if you trigger it again, it starts over again. It doesn't stack a second heal. It just starts a new heal. Big change to Weakening Curse. 100% healing reduction is a potent stat to have on an active. Its existence has limited the usefulness of gods with healing abilities, as well as trivializing items like Divine Ruin, Brawler's Beat Stick, and gods with anti-healing ability. By removing some of the healing reduction from this item, gods with healing ability should have a little more breathing room, but can still be shut down through itemizing and counterpicks. So they reduced the healing reduction on Weakening Curse from 100% to 65. Basically, what this all means is Hi-Rez is trying to make Hell and Chang'e good. That's what it means. Alright? Basically. And as far as trivializing Divine Ruin trivializes itself because Divine Ruin is a bad item. It's a bad item with a passive that sometimes is necessary, alright? That's what Divine Ruin is. The stats on it are just awful. If your mage has to build into Divine Ruin, you're probably in trouble anyways. So, there's that. Hide of the Urchin is now 100 gold cheaper. Gameplay fixed banished players getting stuck on top of Medusa statues if created underneath them. Alright, and now some god changes. Ao Kuang was seeing very positive performances at the highest levels of play, but struggled in the hands of less experienced players. Well, that's true for any god that has a high skill cap. People that play the game for a living will probably do better with them than people who don't. Alright, one of the biggest strengths at higher level play was the low cooldown nature of Wildstorm. We have shifted some of the power away from this skill in favor of increasing the strength of Dragon Call. The goal is to balance out Ao Kuang over multiple skill ranges he was being played at. So, Dragon Call, they increased the base damage per dragon. Each dragon is now 5 more damage. They took 10% scaling off of Wildstorm and increased its cooldown. Not a huge change, really. I don't think it's going to affect him very much at all. Kabrakan, some bug fixes. Chang'e fixed mute not applying on certain skins. Fenrir Brutalize. Fixed ability not working on targets being pulled by Khepri. I almost wish that they wouldn't have fixed this. Because if you're getting Khepri pulled, there's literally nothing you can do except basic attack Khepri in the face. So if you're stuck being pulled by Khepri and unable to use any of your abilities, and then Fenrir just comes up and brutalizes you, you're dead, right? Like, that's just a terrifying combination. Khepri pull into Fenrir brutalize. And big changes, this is probably the biggest god change, coming to Guan Yu. Guan Yu is a warrior who excels at being in a fight, shredding protections, healing his team, and dashing through targets. We wanted to reward him more for doing these things. His passive will now also build stacks on dealing damage to enemy gods, and the cooldown on his dash was reduced. He should now be able to assist his team with more powerful heals and use lower cooldown to be in better positions. So his passive, Painless, got a buff where it now stacks upon dealing damage as well as receiving damage, which means more passive physical power gain, which means more healing on his heal as well as more damage on his abilities. And his dash now has a 10% higher slow and 2-second less cooldown. Overall, the thing with Guan Yu is that you're not going to play him in the solo lane because his clear is still bad, right? Like, his clear just isn't really that good compared to other warriors. And you're not going to play him in support because he doesn't really have that much peel. So, I don't know. Guan Yu probably still isn't going to be the most viable pick. But, you know. Hercules, fixing accuracy with ground targeters, causing targets not to get knocked up. It's about time. Improved highlighting accuracy on Hu Yi's Ricochet. Improved highlighting accuracy on Giannis's Unstable Vortex. Khepri got another little nerf. Khepri was brought much more into line with the recent changes, meaning he was broken when we released him and then we nerfed him. But we still saw him overperforming by increasing the mana cost of Rising Dawn, increasing the cooldown on Solar Flare. When you choose to save teammates will become more impactful. I don't really see how extra mana cost on Rising Dawn and a slightly higher cooldown on Solar Flare is going to affect when he uses his ultimate, except for maybe you just use Rising Dawn and now you don't have enough mana to use your ultimate. Like, that's the only thing I can think of. Kumbhakarna, poor Kumbhakarna still sucks. So we looked at some key aspects of his kit. We brought up the damage in route of Groggy Strike, as it was a very long channel for not much payoff. In a previous patch, we split the damage from Epic Uppercut so that he could deal some more upfront damage, but it reduced the area of effect damage when landing. We like to split, but want to bring back some of the reward for hitting players with the landing of the ultimate. So they increased the base damage on his Groggy Strike. It's now 70, 120, 170, 270, and it increased the route by an extra half second, and it increased the damage on the landing of the knock-up on his ultimate. Still, what makes Kumbhakarna bad, at least compared to other Guardians, is that his wave clear is also his escape ability. And that's not good. Fix the effects on Medusa's acid spray to be more accurate. 5% extra. Okay, increase additional power from 25% to 30% of his movement speed. Okay, so now you get a little extra power on Mercury's passive. Woohoo. Nox cannot be pulled from Khepri after she's used Shadow Lock on a target. Okay. Increase the health return on Ravada's 10-hand Shadow Fist. That little bit of extra healing isn't really going to help. And Ymir Ice Wall, fixed ranks 2 and 3 being 1 second shorter than stated. So if you thought the Ymir Wall lasted forever before it ranked 2 and 3, now it's going to be a second longer. So those are the patch notes for the Indomitable Spirit. It's live on the PTS right now. If you don't have the PTS, go ahead and download that if you want to play the patch early. If not, you'll have to wait a few days for it to come out. It comes out on the live client September 1st, barring any setbacks. Check out my tier list that I just did for Khepri, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Thanks for watching.